That could be a segment in the new show, maybe.
Nope, we're good.
Content is
I was
profit,
told by
sing
my wife
along.
yesterday that I should leave the singing to my mom. As I was singing the national anthem for the soccer game, Venezuela-Argentina last night. So, yep, I am going to take that advice.
Do you even know the lyrics of the national anthem?
Heck
of
yeah,
Venezuela?
bro. We sang it. We had to sing that for like 18 years in school. All right. Do you know the national anthem? Do you remember?
I do.
Don't sing it.
I think so.
Okay.
I think I do.
Don't sing it.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a very long time.
We don't need to sing it. Hey, are you ready or what?
Almost. I don't know why my Facebook page is like struggling to load.
All right.
Come on, Facebook.
It's Friday and it's time to party. And guys, let me tell you something before we go like, what's up? Happy Friday. Let me tell you something. Today, you do not have to worry. I got the controls of the show. Fonzie tried out last Wednesday. That did not go very smooth.
Yeah, I failed. I failed the
Failed
trials.
miserably. It's okay. Maybe we can have him controlling the show. But it's okay. It's okay. We had a publishing lesson out there, episode 204. So go back, check it out, and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Have you gone through the same situation before?
I was actually watching it later that night.
Oh boy.
And I was cracking up. I was like, wow, I can't believe I left the stream twice.
I know.
Not just once,
Twice. It's okay. Champion, the one crazy that he continued talking and it was incredible. Super smooth.
Absolutely.
All right, behind
I'm
the
all shared.
doors.
I'm ready to go.
You're all shared? Okay.
Yeah. Are you shared?
30 minutes later, Fonzie is ready. Okay. We good?
Absolutely.
All right.
Always.
Let's make this happen. Baby, episode 205. All right.
We've got
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Fonzie.
Yeah, you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
So, how do businesses and creators like us who did not cheat with hacks and tactics and don't want to be stuck in the content wheel of death?
Yes.
How do we build a modern media team and profit from our content?
In this creators economy, pre-filled templates and content calendars have become the solution for those that are not willing to put in the work and build a real business. Those that get rewarded are the ones that create and control their own process.
That is right, and content can be either your biggest distraction or your biggest lever. Here, you learn to develop the systems to create consistently, build trust with your audience, and get the attention of those that are willing to give you money.
Go to contentsprofit.com, join the community. Come hang out. It's a fun place.
Absolutely.
It's a fun place.
Fun fact, the other day we were talking and we were like, dude, this intro is a little bit too long. We need to change it.
I know it's.
And we get
update-
both agreed. Yeah.
I know, but hey, before that, there's version like 0.3 of the show coming, just so you know.
It's gonna be absolutely
This is the
amazing.
fun part. But today, what are we talking about, Fonzie?
Yeah, today we're talking all about how to accelerate your business
Ooh,
growth.
baby, that sounds like
And
that. That sounds like that, and that sounds
we
like that.
got the master of it today
Yes.
here with us. I don't know. Some people call him the Energizer Bunny of
The Energizer Bunny. I know.
of business.
Behind scenes, he told us how he wives calls him. I don't know if we are allowed to say that on public, but that's okay. That's okay. Because Fonzie, hey, do we have a sponsor today? Keep it short. Keep it short.
Indeed, we do. Thank
Keep
you.
it short.
Thank you for asking. Today's sponsor is your own, the Biz Bros
Let's go.
with Content Momentum. If you need a plug and play content team to help you multi-purpose your content, slide in the DMs at Biz Bros Go on Facebook,
Hey,
on
tell me,
Instagram.
what's the result of that?
That is money.
Let's go. That's right, guys. Go ahead and follow on social media at BizRosco and on your favorite podcasting platform. Yeah, so good. Your
That
turn.
is
Your
right.
turn. Go
And
ahead.
if today's guests help you get one step closer to your goal, please don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Today we're bringing back one of the OG guests of Content is Profit, our good friend and mentor. He first came on episode 27. Can you believe it, Francis? 27.
I know.
205, just for reference in there right now. And now he's back to blow your socks away one more time. Let's go.
That is right. Today's guest will help you accelerate your business with fewer headaches, and he will probably drop some of the best hashtag golden boulders this show has ever seen. So you better put on your helmet right now. Go ahead and do it.
He also has been named Franchise 500 twice, Inc. fastest growing private companies twice, Business Journal Fast 53 times, Business Journal's ultimate CEO. That's a cool title to have. Business Journal's 40 under 40, Trend Magazine Best Place to Work, and to top it off, Content is Profit Hall of Fame. Let's go.
That's definitely the best one.
Yes,
That is definitely the best. And I mean, we can tell today's guest is definitely an overachiever, but that is how we love it. Let's go. I'm so pumped up. Please welcome CEO of Proven Chaos, mentor and friend, and your next business coach, Jerry McNamara. Jerry.
Thanks, guys.
Woo! Hey, how awesome was that conference to episode 27? Just gonna put it out.
All right. So I want to be on the real Hall of Fame, which I want to be ahead of George Bryant. I know he's been on 3 times. I know Pablo's been on twice, and Catherine Jones has been on twice. So I'm going to pester you guys until I catch George, and then I'm gonna surpass him.
Yeah,
but, it's serious. Game on now.
Let's do it.
I love it. Special editions, by the way, so we can, we'll do the CEO bundle, and then for our awesome listeners. So if you're interested in the CEO bundle, send us a quick DM. Be like, I'm interested in the CEO bundle, and we'll consider bringing Jerry on a 3rd and maybe a 4th time for that bundle. I'm just saying. No, Jerry, the doors are always welcome. You know that you have a special.
The doors are always welcome.
Open.
I love you guys, and we have a mutual friend, and I was saying to them, I said, could you imagine Luis and Luis at 21 at a bar and the shtick that they would have at a bar trying to pick up women? I just think that would be hysterical to watch. I wish I could be the fly on the wall back.
We should have done we should have done a reality show back then. I mean, it was so good that my wife, I met him when I was 21. So I'm just saying that it was that good, Jerry. It was that good. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Fonzie, no. What do you have to say?
I mean, I'm just there for the dance moves, Jerry. That's what I'm there for.
That and the beard, the pretty face, the pretty face. You're there for the pretty face.
Yeah, that is right. Jerry, thank you so much for coming today.
Guys, thank you so much for the kind words and the introduction. I always said my mom gave me my best introduction, and since she's not here anymore, thank you so much to give me those kind words. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. We are like your number one fans. I'm not kidding. And hopefully we're your number one friends too. All right.
Amen. Get me to number 4. Get me to episode 4 and we'll talk.
That's right, baby.
He's gonna start calling you Mr. McNamara. We talked about this, right? Hey, okay. Let this be a lesson for publishing, right? Like a lot of what we talk here on the show is like, obviously we bring our guests, but we want to be having a discussion, right? We don't want to, we don't want to be like under them or like. And so on. And there's different ways that we can do that. If you're interested in knowing those ways, let us know. But there's been a few guests like, Mr. McNamara over here and some others that
are... Mr. McNamara is in West Virginia with my brother celebrating his birthday yesterday. And so...
you're Mr. J-Mac.
Mr. J-Mac. But it's funny. I think like the first experience was with Todd Brown and Fonzie goes like, Mr. Brown. Yes, of course. And then my next one, Mr. Brown.
I said Mr. Todd. Mr. Todd, not Mr. Brown. It wasn't a first name basis.
I know.
But, it can be intimidating sometimes when you get this big people, big entrepreneurs.
Right, Mr. McNamara.
Right? I get the sweaty pits sometimes, but I have now from episode 27, we have a few bonus episodes there. So I would say I have over 200 episodes of experience. No more sweaty pits, Jerry, and I'm ready to take on the golden boulders that you're about to share today.
Well, to that point, Fonzie, before we go on, first of all, I love what you guys do. I so appreciate your help and your guidance as I've gone on my journey. And I think we talked about this in 27. I don't believe in levels of people or corporations. We're all just people. We're all loving people, learning. We've all lost something. We've all hated something. And so for me, it's all about being human and loving your people. And so when you do that, so many things just fall right into place. And so I always say that everyone that knows me well knows love is my first value. And I always say, love your people and treat them as whole people. So there are no levels in life.
I love that. And I think this is like a perfect segue for the topic number one. Topic number one. Where we have like a whole new show here today. No, but actually, Jerry, yesterday I was listening to this audio clip from Ben Settle. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like a pretty
I've heard
big.
that name. I don't know him.
He's like a huge email marketer, but
Okay.
that's all he does. He's been doing it for like decades, right? And he was
So hold
talking.
on. So Fonzie, you're saying he's very, very focused and very, very successful. Have you ever heard me say that to you?
Yes, absolutely. Many times.
I knew this was going to be a coaching session for us, and we just wanted to go record that. Hey, full disclosure, by the way, we've been working with Jerry for a few months now, and like the clarity that has come through that, at least on my side, I don't know, Fonzie sometimes gets a little confused, but it has been incredible, and we're super fortunate to share that journey with you guys as we move along today. So I just want to mention that out there, because if you see those internal jokes, that's because of that. So come join in our awesome group together. Jerry actually has open office hours where anybody can come in and ask any questions. So we highly recommend that. We're going to leave all the links right below. So I just wanted to plug that at the beginning of it, because what's about to happen, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to be there in all those office hours.
Yeah, they're absolutely amazing, and they have a bunch of great entrepreneurs in there. But back to the topic.
Topic one, go ahead. Ben,
Topic one. There we go.
Reset.
So he was talking about email marketing, and he was saying, like, with this new iOS update, people are all concerned with their emails deliverability, open rates, and he's like, dude, none of that matter. He's like, none of that matter, because you're not trying to sell the click, you are selling their relationship, right?
Yes.
And you said people don't
say
have
louder.
People
say
don't
louder,
have
Fonzie.
levels, right? We are all just people. And I think that translates into marketing so well, because like he mentioned, right, we are here to sell the relationship, right? And I think when people start falling into the tactics and hacks and all that stuff, yes, there's strategy, but I think if we can base around how can we connect, right, to a personal level with the person that we're trying to help, that is just gonna accelerate our business growth. Interesting, right? So I'm curious, Jerry, right, because you are extremely good at building those relationships with people. I mean, I've noticed it obviously with us, but at the same time, I've been to your office hours a few times. I'm not gonna lie, I wish I've been more, not gonna lie, but I'm throwing myself under the bus right here. but I can tell everybody in there not only respects you, but like you said, they love you too, and they love the whole community that you've built. And it's incredible to see how everybody's cooperating with each other. So what are some of the elements to sell these relationships, to build these strong relationships with the people that you're trying to help?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I look at every relationship that you go through, there's what I call the arc. And the arc has three parts. Likable, right? So what's the energy that this person is putting out when they pick up the phone or they get on a Zoom call in today's day and age? What's the energy? Are they the sad sack, or are they putting the positive energy where you're like, wow, that person's pretty cool?
Mm-hmm.
The second piece of it is relatable. Do you look and say, I can relate to this person. I can see myself having lunch or dinner with them and talking about things outside of whatever it is that the topic might be. And the third is, the payoff, and it's competent. So you have to be likable, relatable, and competent. And competence is just simply, does this person actually know what they're talking about? And I don't care if this is a customer relationship. I don't care if this is a personal relationship. I don't care if this is a business relationship. Every person goes through the same exact arc. If you're interviewing for a job, when you show up, are you looking the part? Do you give the right energy? Do you connect with the person? And then you get the chance to demonstrate your ability to add value to them as a person, as a company, whatever it may be. But every relationship traces that same arc: likable, relatable, competent. And so, you guys and I, we've had this conversation a number of times. The more secure you are in who you are and how you want to show up in life, or in my place, with my leaders, how do I want to show up for my people? The better you will be and the more effective you will be in building those relationships so that you're able to create outcomes and impact that make a difference.
I love it. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Likable, relatable, and competence, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious, do you have any stories from both sides of the spectrum, right? Like to illustrate with examples, right? What would a person that have all three elements of the arc, and then one person that maybe don't come across, and what to do's and not to do's in here, so people that are listening are like, okay, maybe I relate to this, maybe I can improve on my relatability, right? For example, or on my competence, right? I feel like sometimes maybe imposter syndrome, right, comes from not feeling too competent about what you're talking about, even though you could be very experienced in it and actually know your thing, right? You can come across as not that competent because you're feeling, that imposter syndrome, for example.
Yep. A great question. So the first example I have is I used to run a soccer retail company, and one of our store owners, the name of the company was Soccer Post, and he would answer the phone, even though he was the owner. He was super passionate about what he did, but he didn't think about how he showed up. And so someone calls you, that's your tentacle to the outside world, and he would literally answer, "Hello, Soccer Post." And it's like, who in their right mind is showing up at that store? There is no law of attraction to bring someone in that. And so we had to constantly remind that store owner, remember, someone's calling you because they have a need. And if you are not excited and positive, then you are not putting out the energy where someone goes, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
No, instead they're going to go up the street to Dick's or some other competitor because you haven't done the work to say, oh, that person's likable. Like I want to give them a shot. I think one of the greatest examples is my friend Matt Foxhall. And so shows up every single time with tremendous energy. He has that law of attraction. Yeah. Matt has this thing that he has chased for many years, 101 life goals. So when you talk about relatable, I mean, this is a guy that is chasing intentionally every year 101 life goals.
Wow.
And it's like, tell me more. I want to know more about heli-skiing, jumping out of a helicopter and skiing down a hill. That's flipping cool, right? Yeah. And so there's an opportunity because of the epic nature of the way in which he lives his life in an intentional way that you just want to be around him. You want to know more. And then he's very successful. And so he has a level of competence that he has risen to in his career that just connects that arc. He is not only a tremendous business person, he's a tremendous friend. And he's one that I think nails all three of that arc: likable, relatable, competent.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I remember one of the first times that I met you or maybe interacted with you, it was a few years back, and I was running a fitness studio and you were a member in that fitness studio. And I remember you coming in for the 5 a.m. class or the 6 a.m. class, like early morning. And it was like this massive ball of energy, like crossed the glass doors, right? And you had these members waiting for the class, like just woken up, just sitting in there in quiet. Sometimes we had this music, I love to have loud music, especially in the morning to kind of, get the thing moving, right? So I always did my best to do that. I remember one day you're walking out and you're like, and I go like, hey, Jerry, have a good day. And you just stopped, right? And you turn around, you're like, not good. Great, have an amazing day, right? And then you walked out, and to me, like that was such a that just has lasted that impression for like.
He came back home and he was like, "When I grow up, I want to be like Jerry."
It's like, have a great day, and you have a great day, and let's go. And that really helped me because every time I personally, feel down, especially right when we have to put out the energy to go out and publish, right? Because we have to throw that energy through the camera, through the phone, through whatever that we're doing, right? Depends obviously on what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we need to do that. And I think one of the things that differentiates this show. Wow, that word.
That's a big word, right?
Big word for Luisa.
There's no Venezuelan comparison.
No Venezuelan comparison at all. It's that people are like, I love your energy, guys. Like I am hooked, right? And we've used that as a hook for the show and the people that come on and the people that invite us to speak somewhere else. So I want to say thank you for that. But also, how can people...
Wait, before you ask that question, I'm going to chime in here real quick. Fun fact about what you just said about the energy is I had an earlier call today, shameless plug. We are developing a partnership program.
Hey,
so if you want to be a Biz Bros partner, let us know and we'll give you all the details. But, we're developing this so you can make a lot of money too, and we can all win in this. But I had one of those calls, right, sharing about the partnership program. And I told the guy at first, it's like, okay, well, when you answer to this post, what do you think of? What is your expectation? And his answer was, honestly, nothing. I just love your energies. I love your ideas.
Energies,
energies. Yeah, both of us.
Oh wow, two energies.
And he's like, and I want to be, involved in whatever you guys are gonna do. And I was like, thank you. That is such a great compliment, honestly. So that's the little parentheses I wanted to make. Now you can go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you, Fonzie. Okay, Jerry, to you. So how it is pretty challenging, right? When we start communicating, whether that's in front of your, board of directors, whether that's your employees, whether that's your audience when publishing, right? And in some sort, you've tackled this journey as well in publishing, at some point, but you're also communicating with a lot of stuff throughout your career. So how does somebody taps into that energy that can portray to that audience, that person that's listening to you, so you can create that trust, right? And eventually, right, create that transaction, whether that's paying attention, a results, a sell, whatever that is, the next step. How do we control that and become aware that we need to control that, and how do we execute on it?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I'm a big believer that just by virtue of living, we're going to make an impact on the world. And so my big belief is, why not make it a conscious, intentional one? I think I'm only going to be here once. And so I want to try and live my life on my terms and support and love the people around me in ways that help them unlock their very best self to go and conquer whatever goals that they want to go do. So for me, the way in which that starts is I try and live a life of intention. It starts with my values. I am very, very clear on my values. My values are my operating system. It's every day how I try and live my life. There are times that I fail miserably. Let me raise my hand. I am 100% fallible. But by virtue of having my values very clear in my mind, it gets me closer to living a life of intention that is closer to the person that I aspire to be. So I'm constantly chasing that person. And so I try and connect my values to my intentions. So every morning, the first intention that I share with myself, because I say them out loud every day, is that I will add an insane amount of joy to the world today. And what happens is I train my mind to continue to scan the landscape of life, every opportunity at every time, to add joy to the world. You guys know this. I've shared this with you before. I tell Brooklyn and Briggs, my two kids, every single day when I leave them, be kind, be sweet, and add joy to the world. And that to me is the most important thing that I can do to try and instill that positive mindset in them, because that's allowing them to go conquer the world the way that they want to go do.
Yeah.
And so I work really hard on my morning routine. I try and meditate. I try and work out. I try and read. I try and write. All of those things that prime my mind for performance, because if you win the mind, you win the day. Yes. So I make a conscious choice that I am going to bring an insane amount of positive, just a positive mindset into everything that I'm doing. I mean, one of my intentions is I will live a world where I'm so positive that people will actually think I'm on drugs. right? And so
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of consider that. Just say like that was a thought that came into mind, and some of those members around there, they were like, "Hey, is he okay?" And we're like,
Right.
"Yeah, absolutely." It's like he's rubbing off on me, and they're like, "Get away!" But no, I love it.
But Luis, to your point, and I just posted about this. You talk about content generation, and sharing your thoughts. Is at some point in time, someone told you to have a good day, then someone else did, then someone else did, then someone else did, and then you just decided that was okay. That's what I'm supposed to be pursuing in life. And I think that's bullshit. I don't want to have good days. I'm only going to be here once. So I'm choosing to have great days. And so I try and put people out of their default state by saying, why do you only want me to have a good day? I thought we were friends. I thought you liked me. Don't tell me to have a good day and try and settle for what life is trying to hand you. You want to go out and have a great day. You have to go do the work to do it. But the work is worth doing to go achieve a level of success that you're worthy of.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Jerry, were you always this discipline? And when did the thought of, okay, I need to have my values, my intentions, stick with them, live with them? When did that happen to you, right? Because obviously not everybody is just born with that. Like, we have experiences throughout our life that teaches things to us. And one of those things is like, okay, well, I need to evolve, right? I think, I don't remember who said this, but it's like the mind that created a problem cannot be the same mind that solves that problem, right? So we need to be constantly evolving. And obviously, we saw your accolades right here, all the things that you've managed to do throughout your career. But I'm sure like it wasn't like that from the beginning, right? Or maybe it was, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm curious. How did you start developing this discipline, the values, all these things, and now you're sharing with everybody and teaching them?
So I think it's really two pieces. One is my mom, growing up, used to say to us, smile and the world smiles with you, cry alone. And so it was that whole notion that you have a choice. You have agency over your life and your decisions and your approach. And so I've articulated that in the book that I've been trying to write for quite some time. Don't tell my wife because she'll ask me where it is. Rachel, I promise it's on the way.
It's made public now, and content is profit. So it is. It's done.
That's right. It's almost done. But the way in which I say that in the book is you can't always choose your circumstances, but you can always choose your attitude and your approach. So that was one thing that was very important in guiding me. And the second piece, Fonzie, is I've always loved to lead. I don't know what it is inside of me, but I always love having people in my care. And I've taken that very seriously. I don't know what that is inside of me, but I've always taken it seriously. My senior year in high school, my senior thesis topic was, what is success? And so this is something that I have always been interested in. How do you create success in your life? What does it look like? How does it happen? And I've been lucky that I've been a lifelong learner. When I think about why organizations succeed over the long term, at the very outside of the business acceleration model is learning, is curiosity. Because companies that invite people into their organization that are high learners, that are highly curious, solve problems differently than other organizations. And so I believe that it is a differentiator. It's a game changer. You should be consciously inviting people into your organization that are reading, watching TED Talks, listening to podcasts, whatever those things are. Because if we're trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's thinking, it doesn't work. Right? Yeah. I saw some ridiculous statistic that was 80% of people, once they leave high school, never read another book. And
How many?
Think that's like 80%. Never read another book. I don't remember where that statistic was, so don't quote me on it. But it was something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And I look, and I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago, I read 63 books in 1 year.
Wow.
Because I love to read, I love to learn, and I'm trying to assimilate information into a framework that can help people.
Yes.
And so for me, where did that come from? I think it's really those two places. My mom's very conscious intention to tell her kids that you have a choice in your life. It's up to you. You want to cry? Cry. You want to smile? Smile. But you're going to get the output of that. People are going to be around you. And if you're the crier, you're going to get whiners around you. If you're the sunshine, you're going to have sunshine around you. And it's your choice. It's your choice.
Absolutely. So, talking about curiosity and learning, I think that's a topic that we're familiar with, right? We talk a lot about it when we jump on our calls. And, lately you've been telling me like, hey, I know you're, a high learner. You love learning things, which I do. I absolutely love just consuming stuff, right? And that is in part why I created the challenge, the 1-to-1 challenge, right? Which was consume and create at the same ratio, which I gotta admit,
how'd that work out for you?
I've been failing at it, so I need to retake it.
Before we're gonna be super transparent here. Right? The other day, if I remember the call, right, and you challenged Fonzie to be like, "Hey, for the next 30 days, right, you cannot consume content, right? There's this task that we gotta do, and we gotta move forward, right?" So come home and I'm like, oh man, when I heard that, I was so excited, right? Because this has been a topic of conversation, right? And this is, on my side, I'm probably completely opposite of Fonzie, right? Like I consume intensely, like if I'm there, and then I get very distracted, right? Because I'm like opportunity, right? So for me, it has been like that focus. Okay, let's go back to this, and then trying to figure out like those frameworks. How can we apply them into the thing that we're doing, right?
I just want to add this out there so people don't misinterpret what's happening right now. I don't sit down like a vegetable in front of the computer and consume and just stare at the screen. Like I love reading and stuff, and honestly, I'm like taking notes, thinking how can I apply this. And one of the downsides of that is that in my mind, it creates a lot of opportunities, right? I'm like, oh, I can do this or I can do that, and it loses focus, right? Which you mentioned at the beginning, right? When we mentioned Ben Settle, one expertise, one focus, right? Like he's been doing it for decades. So when we were in that conversation, what my brother was mentioning, you said you cannot consume, you need to focus on this task, right? So action. So for those listening right now, for the person that is like, okay, I love learning, but at this point of my business, I see so many things that I could do. How would you tell them to, besides, hey, focus on one thing and do it? What is the difference between, curiosity and action? What balance it is? Because I know it gets to a point where you get to grow your business and maybe you can surround yourself with the right talent that is taking action and you can be that learner and the visionary, all those things. Yeah. But when it's not that many people in your team, you got to take action, right? So how do we manage that curiosity?
Full disclosure, is both of us, right? Like, for those listening, like we're not perfect, like, and we're being in this journey and we're learning and we're
Talk
moving
for yourself.
I mean, you do have a perfect beard and voice. I cannot deny that. But again, like, and I'm sure like everybody listening that has been in this journey, this is happening 100%, right? And we talked about the different levels that this happens. So, closing parentheses, all you, Joe.
So I say this all the time. The biggest business sin is information without action. And so a guy that I used to work with, Dr. Kyle Excorn, a former surgeon who became CEO, incredibly, maybe the most impressive guy I've ever met. I love Dr. Kyle. And, as a new CEO, he was asking for all of these reports to come out of, his analytics department because he wanted to know this, he wanted to know that, wanted to know this. And, when I shared with him, information without action is the biggest business sin because you're just wasting people's time, right? And the question that I gave him was, what action do you expect to take out of gathering this information? And so what I find with high learners, myself included, full disclosure, I am a high learner, right? And so at some point in time, you have to expect to take action out of the information that you're learning. Otherwise, you're playing business, you're not doing business.
Yeah.
That's a critical distinction. We've had this conversation before, right? We're playing business, we're not doing business. And so one of the really critical things when I look at all of the high achievers that I've had the opportunity to work with, work alongside, they take action differently than people who do not succeed. And so there is a willingness that I don't have all of the information, but I have enough information to act and to go make some type of impact. And what I find is, like you said, Fonzie, you keep on reading and finding this new methodology, and we're going to change this tool, and we're going to go redirect this way. And the reality of it is, you just need to go do the work. And so when the pursuit of information and learning no longer serves you or is getting in the way of creating all of these, the SOSs, the shiny object syndrome, I'm going to go chase this, I'm going to go chase that, I'm going to go chase this, then it's no longer serving you. And so when I see that inside people that I work with, I ask them, please, for the next 30 days, I just want you to take action as opposed to continuing on the hamster wheel and learning and learning and learning and learning, because by the time that I talk to you next, you're going to have 7 new ideas, 7 more things that we can do. And at the end of the day, we will not have gained any traction on the objectives that we've set forth that we need to go accomplish to make the business successful.
Yeah.
And so, I just ran a strategic plan this week for Seal Shield, one of my clients. I love hanging out with those guys. They're so smart. They're so fun. They're so fun to be a part of, and they're making such an impact. I love being with them. But I say this all the time because it's a very highly entrepreneurial environment. It's very sales driven. And so I have to remind them, a fox chasing 2 rabbits catches none. Mm-hmm. And so you have to pick the bets that you're going to make. And when I look at the course of my career and any success that I've had, it's because I'm willing to focus in on fewer things and make bigger bets. And that scares some people because it's like, oh, I want to have all of these opportunities available to me.
Yeah.
And the answer is, you can't do it all. I can love all the opportunities. I can't do them all. I have to say, here are the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to be great at. I'm going to put all my time, energy, and attention into those 3 or 4 things to make the impact. That doesn't mean that I'm saying no to those other things and ideas that I have permanently. It just means that I'm going to have the discipline to go chase the 3 or 4 and truly make the impact on the business. Yes. So it really comes back to you just have to be in a space to execute, take action, iterate, test. If it doesn't work, try again. It's just forward momentum, constant forward momentum.
Absolutely. I love this. Guys, just go back a few minutes. I don't know what minute exactly we started this, but I'm going to say 5 minutes ago, and re-listen to this part.
Minute 30.
And then go and take action, obviously. But this is something that just came to mind as you were sharing, Jerry, about 5 episodes ago, actually, episode 200 with Jason Duncan. He was talking about stress, right? And how obviously stress is like one of the main killers of entrepreneurs. And he talked about how you can pretty much get rid of that stress, right? Open cycles. And I started thinking, as soon as I read about it on his website, even before he jumped on the show, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Like when I feel a lot of stress, I have a lot of open cycles, a lot of unfinished tasks, right? And now with you, I'm thinking, when do I start those tasks? And a lot of the times is when I am, curiosity driven and I'm learning about things. I'm like, oh, we should do this. And I put it on my to-do list, right? Do this, right? With a bunch of maybe things to measure. And then I keep reading and another idea pops up. Oh, let me add it to my to-do list. Let me do this, right? And it gets to a point where now you have so many things to do that you end up doing none, right? And it's difficult to focus on the important ones. So I wrote down here, it's like, what is the downside of ideas? Is it stress? Maybe, right? But maybe you're stressing yourself without knowing it because you're opening so many of these cycles. And then it's going to take such a massive effort to close these cycles that you're going to be losing focus in your business, and you're, derailing yourself and maybe not accomplishing the objectives that you want. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it was kind of like an epiphany moment, gong moment right there. I told you guys you should have brought your helmets. But yeah, I'm curious, right? How do you see stress, right? I'm going to be honest. Since I met you, I don't think I've seen you like a few, stress out like a few times, and it's maybe because you have to spend like an hour or two in a line to pick up your kids from school. But, like business wise, you are, like a smooth operator. My brother loves that word. So
Smooth operator.
How do we, in your point of view, right? Maybe what is that relationship between ideas and stress, and how, you stayed focused?
So I think the clearer you are on your vision and your values, and you can create alignment with your actions, once you have that alignment, you create fulfillment. And to me, that is the highest, greatest purpose of life. So when I am clear on my vision, the impact that I want to go make on the world, I'm clear on my operating systems, what I celebrate, what I don't tolerate, and my actions are in alignment, that I am pursuing my vision in accordance with my values. I'm on the right road. I have the right guardrails in place, my values. Then you become unstoppable. Yeah. And so the question is, there are bad ideas. I'm not going to say there's not bad ideas, but really you have to look and be disciplined to say, does this idea, does this objective roll up to support me to be the very best person that I want to go become, to make the impact on the world that I want to make? And so I've said this a million times. I've made more money in my career saying no than I have saying yes. Mm-hmm. And that's because I am so disciplined to say, here's where I'm going and here's how I'm going to get there. Let me give you an example. I had a soccer retail company. We sold soccer jerseys all across the United States, sometimes into the Caribbean. And, it included a jersey, shorts, socks, fully customized. We sent it factory direct right to the consumer. And my sock supplier came to me and said, man, you could sell all of my crazy, funky socks. And I have another business that's doing 6 figures in just socks. I'd love to do that with you because I like you more and I trust you more. And why don't you do that? And I thought for a while, and I was very flattered that he came to me with that opportunity. But I knew that every time the phone rang, it was $500 on the other end of that line. And we had 40% margins, which meant I made $200 every time the phone rang. That was the business that I was in. Yeah. I was not in the business of selling $10 socks that when someone didn't like them and wanted to send them back because they didn't fit right or they weren't exactly the color that they thought they might be, I didn't want to be processing $10 socks. I didn't have the infrastructure set up for it. And so I turned down a 6-figure opportunity to sell socks because it didn't fit into my business model.
Yeah.
My vendor, he was super kind, but he thought I was crazy. And I said, I have to stay disciplined in what makes my business work. What makes my business work is that every time my phone rings, I make $200. I don't want to make $5 every time my phone rings.
Yeah.
And so I stay disciplined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you continue asking this smart questions, I want to make a comment on the stress side of things, right? Because like I've been through some stressful times in my life, and I remember going through it like, man, like am I actually always gonna feel this way when I'm tackling these new problems and new things, right? And to me, a big word in the last couple of years has been perspective, right? Like how do we change the perspective in different things? We talk about it when we launch the show. And I remember I've been trying to remember who said this, but stress is an indicator that something something is there, right? So we have to reverse engineer and think, okay, why am I feeling this way, right? Like is stress is an indicator. I need to find out what is causing that. And then once you identify it, then you can take action on that item, right? And recently we've shared about open cycles and different things. And my personal example was when we moved into the new house, right? I was expected from my wife to build some furniture and move different things that were here. And the first weekend, right, I didn't do it. I was like, man, like I'm just I don't want to do this, right? Like I can do it next week. But throughout that week of working, I was very unproductive, right? Because I kept going back. And then at night, Katie was like, why is this not done? And I'm like, well, because I'm going to do it next weekend. But there was there, right? And it was causing stress, right? And that was a very small example. But for business, it's the same thing, right? These things happen. And when we don't identify, don't take action. So the next weekend, once I did, I was like, everything cleared up and we can move forward because I identified the problem and took action against it, right? So, we've talked about this like on sales, on different things. Okay, what are the indicators that are causing this? And as we're revisiting this conversation in my head, I'm like, I stayed away from that, right? Because there's different, the staying away from identifying what that indicator is telling me every single time. And that's what's causing all that buildup. So, wrapping it up with what Fonzie was saying, what you're saying, I think those are very incredible tools, because by identifying that problem and then if we need to say no, right, because we have to stay focused with what we do with our values, with our thing, then we remove that open cycle and then we're back fresh into what we really need to do. So I love this conversation because it allowed me to revisit, right, a few things, right, that maybe I lost a little bit of sight in the last few months, right? So thank you, Jerry, for sharing that experience. All right, Fonzie.
Yeah. No,
ball back to you.
I was just going to share with your comment that, I heard it from Mr. Capitalism himself, Jeff Bezos. I heard him say this one in an interview, stress comes from not taking action on something you had control over, right? And sometimes when we say yes to many things, we're putting too many things on our plate. And even though we have control over those things, now we're just like overwhelmed and we're not doing them, and then causing stress. And I feel like that's just a circle, because then you're like, okay, how can I get rid of these things? And then you put more activities on your plate to get rid of those things, and it becomes a total mess over there.
Guys, I think I've shared this story with you. Let's talk about stress just for half a second, because it is a real thing, right? I work with multiple CEOs. It is a real thing. When I was 26, we were running a company. That company had gone from 5.9 million to 15 million in 18 months. So high growth. The way I used to explain that is every day I used to come in and wrap my lips around a fire hydrant, and someone would turn the fire hydrant on full blast. We're raising venture capital, traveling around the country, opening stores. I wasn't taking care of myself. I would work 100-hour weeks on a regular basis. It used to be a badge of honor for me to send emails at 3:00 in the morning, or to sleep on a couch that was outside of my office, and people would come in the next day and they would say, "You were in the same clothes as yesterday." Yeah, I was big. It was a big night. I had to get all the work done. And on Valentine's Day, I thought I was having a heart attack, not because I didn't have a date, but I didn't have a date.
Are you going to get a date without working, Jerry?
I remember having electrodes on my chest, and I was literally looking up to the ceiling on the hospital gurney, thinking to myself, what have you done? What did you do to yourself? And so, stress is a real thing. It was a result of trying to do too much, not building a team around me, not giving up things that were clearly in my control that I could have handed off to other people who were certainly capable to do. And that was the tax that I paid. I paid the tax with my health.
Yeah.
And thank goodness it wasn't my heart. It was just my stress. But my blood pressure was beyond through the roof. And those can be the end results. And, it's part of, the 9 principles of personal performance, which is, the book about personal performance, which is the foundation of life is health. And your health is your diet, your exercise, and your sleep. And so if you are taking on so much stress, I certainly cannot be effective from a hospital gurney in a hospital.
Yeah.
And so when you start to think about those things, you say, what am I doing to myself? To what end? These things are not serving me. I can't serve my people. I can't serve my customers. Yeah. And so therefore I have to reset. And so, again, stress is a big deal. It's a real deal. And if you're feeling it, especially in COVID, I have a number of people that I work with that are all facing significant burnout. right? We made it through a pandemic. Our business is still running, right? And now we're bringing people back to work. Maybe we're not bringing them back to work. The Delta variant. I had a conversation with a client earlier today. One of their employees who is unvaccinated is in the ICU on a ventilator and not doing well.
Wow.
And so these are very specific, stressful things that we are facing as leaders. And so we have to be very mindful about making sure that we take care of the stress that's on us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I think that's a great reminder right there. And, something that I keep listening that it kind of has been mentioned a little bit is simplify, right? I mean, moving on from stress to the business per se, specifically, I hear simplify, stay in your lane, focus, right? And I know that's obviously a lot of what you talk, a lot of what we talk on the calls. I'm going to say, like, every time we jump on the call, you're just making sure I'm staying focused. And I'm like, yeah, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. I feel as the week goes by, I start like deviating. So I need to pull myself back together. But, maybe how can we help the listener right now that might have a few tasks on their plate and they're trying to simplify and they're trying to see, okay, which one is the task or what is the thing that I need to do that maybe has the best upside for my company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned this at the beginning, right? Is a risk that we're taking, but we need to pick something and go with it. How can we help them make the right decision?
Yeah, great question. It depends on where you are in your business stage. So if you're early on in your business stage, you have to make more short-term bets than long-term bets because we need to generate some cash flow and some opportunities and iterate faster and faster and faster as your company continues to grow and you get into that stage 2, 30, 50, $100 million, then you're making more longer term bets and you're equaling those things out. And so I think it just depends on where you are in your business stage to look and say, what makes me closest to the dollar? Because we obviously have to stay in business. We have to generate the cash flow. But at the same time, you get to a point that what got me here to success is not going to get me there in success. And so one of the things that I always look at when I'm working with companies is we have this great idea, okay? We try and make an evaluation of risk and reward. So all of business is this trade of risk and reward. I'm willing to take on more risk because there's more reward. I'm going to take on less risk, earlier stage, and take less reward, but I'm going to get more of those turned over.
Yeah.
The key is looking and saying, do I have the resources to execute on the opportunity?
Yeah.
I say this all the time. The key to business is figuring out what resources to put on what opportunities. That's it. If you put the right resources on the right opportunities, you will unlock success. The trick is figuring out what opportunities you should be pursuing, and you have to be disciplined on, here are the resources that I have.
Yeah.
So where people get in trouble is they try and pursue too many opportunities and have too few resources, which is why I'm constantly telling people to focus, because we think we can do more than we can do, right? The research here is clear. We think we can do more in 90 days, right, than we can over a whole year. And the reality of it is we can get way more done in a whole year because our mind doesn't work in a longitudinal path like that than we can in 90 days. So we get less done in 90 days than we think we can, and we get more done in a year than we think we can.
Yeah.
And so, when you're picking your opportunities, and this is one of the exercises that I go through when we look at strategic plans, what are the resources that are required to go execute against this objective? Because if we don't have the resources, or those resources are tied up into other company objectives, it's still a great idea. We just put it in the parking lot for the next quarter to review.
Yeah.
And so it's the discipline of looking and saying, what is going to roll up? I think you guys have seen this before, the clarity code, right? So we have our vision, that's where we're going. Our values, our operating system, that's the corporate side of this. And then when we start to do our strategic plan, then you have 90-day objectives. Those roll up to achieve our vision. And then we have projects. There's going to be multiple projects to achieve that objective. And then there are tasks. So those are the to-do items that you're literally assigning someone to have do this thing by this date and make sure it's executed. And they all roll up together. They're all complementary. But if we try and put too many objectives on the board or too many projects under the objectives that we can reasonably achieve, then we can't get the right resources on the right opportunities. And that's where companies fail. That's where people miss. It's not a talent issue. It's not a capability issue. Sometimes it is, but at the end of the day, it's usually we're not disciplined enough to look at the objectives and the resources that we need to achieve them to then unlock what is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I've heard that phrase of we overestimate what we can do in the short term and we underestimate what we can do on the long term, right? And I think, shifting that mindset, start thinking, okay, what can I accomplish here? But at the same time, having the vision, the values, the strategic plan, projects and tasks set up in the correct way so you stay aligned with there. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm seeing.
Let me just finish that. Sorry to jump back in. I don't believe in a year-long strategic plan. I think the world is moving too fast. Digital has changed the whole dynamic of how we plan. I mean, think about if you had done a strategic plan on January 1, 2020, and the world changed on March 19th or March 15th, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work.
Scrap it.
I find the best companies manage their resources and their opportunities in 90-day sprints, because now we're close enough to exactly what it is that we should be doing. We have that sprint. The world changes a little bit. We readjust the sails. We look at it in 90 days. We haven't gotten so far away from the objectives that the course correction is massive, and the lack of ability to achieve our goals as a company is no longer within our reach. The best companies do 90. They are very disciplined about doing 90-day strategic planning sessions.
Yeah, I love it. Sorry, real quick.
No, let me talk, Fuzzy. Let me talk. Okay, sorry. Fuzzy has been like hugging like the podcast lately. I don't like that.
Jerry, I feel like we're in one of our calls where my brother is not there.
No,
I'm kidding. I just threw you under the bus.
In the near future, we'll reveal why. Okay. I love this, right? Because we've actually sat last Thursday. We had this conversation, Fonzie and I, right? Thursdays is our meetings for the next week, right? Wonderful advice from Jerry. And Mike, we actually did an exercise a few months ago, right? And we talked about the whole year, right? And it's like, this is the focus, right? But last Thursday we sat down and we're like, man, lesson learned, right? Maybe, right? That was one of the things that maybe slowed us down. We need to pivot, right? We're at the stage where we need to like pivot, like slightly, like those 90 days sprints. There's opportunity, right? Within our niche, within what we do, but there's things that we got to chase. And sometimes we're neglecting those, right? Because of that. One example is at the beginning of the service, right? When we started offering content momentum, it was just one thing, one price with the one thing, right? And then we were so close to diversify a tiny bit, like that opportunity for other people to add resources to those opportunities that we had available, that we're closing, we're closing on opportunities, and we struggle for a little bit. And then we decided to open it up and we have a new perspective, and then we offer a workshop and different things start to move forward. And we're like, man, that's good. And right now, right, we're in a moment like that again, right? And we're like, and guess what? It was about 90 days. I was like doing my math in my head and I'm like, it's about 90 days. And so big lesson, right? And let this be like a lesson for you listening, right? Like if you are running on those like the long periods, right? Shrink it down a little bit and then show up to Jerry's open hours on Thursdays. Yeah. Is it Thursdays? No, I miss the days.
Thursdays. Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Thursdays.
Let's go.
So let's just one quick distinction there. It's not that you can't look a year out, right? Yeah. You can use that as your guiding light. Like here's the thing that by the end of the year we hope we achieve. It's just that the best way to plan is in 90-day sprints.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the world may change, and if we're still driving to that year-long thing, or what I find is more appropriate is that people build a plan, and they literally put it up on their bookshelf and they never look at it again.
Yeah, it's like
If you are driving every 90 days to doing that, and another thing that I'm super passionate about as part of doing a 90-day plan is you have to have a platform to make it visible. So there's transparency, accountability, and execution. So I don't care if you use Asana, I don't care if you use Trello, I don't care if you use Smartsheets. You have to have something and revisit it, whether it's weekly or every other week, depending on the size of your company, where you come and report. Here's what's going on the objectives. I'm highly accountable to making these things happen. And so that's kind of the last piece of the strategic plan that I think is critically important.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love this. And I know we're getting here close to
Jerry,
the end.
just so you know, you earned the right to be here on a third time, because we're like, we just want to continue talking. But Luca's waiting for me over there, and I gotta go pick him up. So that's the full strategy of today's episode.
I think this is
it worked.
It worked.
To my rescue.
Yes.
I think this is the hook for next time you come here, Jerry. And it is, I'm seeing these 90-day sprints for content as well, right? Because I've seen in so many places people that are like, oh, plan your yearly content and have it all ready. And I'm like, dude, by month 2, your audience might be asking for something totally different that right. That you already plan for the whole year. So instead of making the massive effort of producing content for 12 months, why don't we focus and do it for maybe create a strategy for 90 days, get feedback from people, and then iterate, right? So I'm gonna leave it like that, because I know you are now like an influencer in the world. You're doing all these videos, you're going guesting on podcasts, which if you want Jerry as a guest in your podcast, you just heard how amazing he is. So make sure you reach out to him. We're going to ask him how to connect with him in just a second. But Jerry, next time we're going to talk all about content. I'm extremely curious about the transition between, owning those companies pre-social media, I'm guessing, right? Mm-hmm. To now, what does content means, and how does it feel? What does that transition look like for somebody like you? So we're gonna leave all those topics for next time. But Jerry, before we go, we always have 2 questions.
Okay, so I think one, I totally thought that you were already asking it, which was what is the advice for that business owner, right? Okay. So we talked about the early stage to the late stage, and what's closer to the dollar, right? So
we'll ask the other one.
Yeah. So that's a minute 48, by the way. So if you're listening, if you kind of missed it, thank you.
Yeah, we didn't brand it as the action point, but that is going to be the action point for today.
Now, Jerry, what has been, especially like in the last couple of months, right? You were part of our 45 Live Challenge, right? Mm-hmm. What has been that golden boulder, or like what's the result of you publishing, right? It could be internal, it could be external, it could be related to the business, right? We've seen many benefits to publishing, but I'm curious to see like what's that for you, and where will you be right at this point in time if you are not publishing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm going to just diverge just a little bit back to Fonzie's point about planning for a whole year. And so because I talked about resources, I have gotten myself an executive assistant. Why? Because I need someone to help me with the resources inside of the company.
Yeah.
She and I have been planning exactly what our social calendar looks like, how often we're posting, who's doing what, and then what are the content pillars behind that. And so, for me, it's all about family. The reason that I do all of the things that I do, my output is my family. I want to love Rachel. I want to be an active part of Briggs and Brooklyn's life. Those are the things that are most important to me. Mm. When I look at businesses and helping businesses, which is a passion, how do you help create compelling companies that outperform and still make it home for dinner? That's the business piece. And then, how do you have personal productivity? What are the tips that I've learned over the course of working with high achievers? That's another content pillar. And then strategic planning is the last piece. And so we're able to create that framework where she can start generating content on my behalf, because she knows and we do this. I capture quotes of mine. She has a document that she works off. And, by being in sync and resourcing that and having a plan, not a whole year plan, here's the next month, right? And so she's building out Airtable for me with all my quote cards. And, I have a piece of that of doing the videos. But, for me, and I've shared this with you guys, my personal goal in the second half of my career is to positively impact 5 million people for the next 5 years. Right. And so God has given me the ability to see lots of different businesses, to help businesses, to serve businesses. And my big bet, because I hate that 80% of people show up to work every day and they hate what they do. And that doesn't make any sense to me because I've always loved the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I believe that if I can help CEOs and senior leaders create compelling companies that outperform, that everyone goes home feeling like my CEO, my manager has helped me create clarity. I know my expectations. I know how I'm winning. I know how I'm contributing to the organization. That person goes home, they're happier. They're more excited to see their spouse, their kids, their friends, their family. All of that just explodes into a place of the world being more positive. And that's my calling. And so I am trying to positively influence as many CEOs, as many senior leaders, to give them the clarity of how they want to show up for their people so that we can go make that impact. And for me, publishing, doing things like this, getting on podcasts and sharing what my experience is. I'm not saying it's the best experience. I'm not saying it's all right. It's right for me. It's right for the people that I serve. And so that's really where content fits in for me in publishing, because if you want to go impact 5 million people, you don't do it sitting on your couch.
Yes.
I love it. I love it, Jerry.
In studio clapping too. In studio.
Yep. Standing ovation from the crowd. People's going wild over here.
I was driving the other day. I was like, host clap. This is the host
clap. Golf clap.
Yeah. No, I love it, Jerry, and we can't wait to see this. Right, like we're right there with you. Like we're in the trenches, and we want to see you do that, right? Like, and we're like, oh, let's do this, and we were like, okay, we were the first two. We're just claiming those 2 spots. Where can people find you, Jerry? Where can people connect with you? We've also obviously mentioned your office hours. Where else?
Yep. Yeah. So you can come visit at provenchaos.com. That's a good website to come visit at. I do most of my work at LinkedIn. And so you can find me by Googling my name, Jerry McNamara. I should show up. One of my life goals is there was a basketball player for Syracuse. His name was Jerry McNamara with a G and an MC. And every time I put in my name, which is spelled differently, his name comes up and it pisses me off. So my goal is over the next couple of years that I will actually own my name. And, where to come visit me? I would tell you office hours is a great place. Every Thursday at 2:00 Eastern time, it's a free event. We're not pitching anything. It's not lead generation. It's an opportunity for senior leaders and CEOs to come together, to solve problems together, to share their experiences. We have an amazing group that shows up generally every week. And I'd love to continue to serve people who have a question or stuck in a business problem or, man, I just don't know how to do that. It's not just me there. It's a handful of other entrepreneurs and senior leaders who will say, hey, based around my experience, here's what I found. And it's a super caring community, super open community. And I love doing that every Thursday.
I love it. And I don't know, we won't share any names, right? But there's a big range, right? From, starting entrepreneurs all the way to multi-million-dollar companies, right? So the extent and the scope of like different opinions and experiences is incredible. And there's always a lesson that we can take from those comments, and is everybody collaborating. So thank you for putting something like that.
I just want to say that Jerry's office hours has a Biz Bros seal of approval.
Let's
go. Jerry, we need to create like a jingle, like Jerry office hours, and then like a guitar.
I'll let you take that one, Fonzie.
Hey, it would be so much fun, and then just make like little clips about it. That'll be amazing. Like you can make a little clip, Jerry office hours, and then it's like, come join us, bam, bam. Ooh,
I think the fun part about it is the community that's developed, and so I've been doing this since November of 2019, right? Way before even COVID, and people had this idea of like, we're going to gather online. So I've been doing it for relatively forever.
You're a
And
pioneer, Jerry.
for me, it's all about the community. Like, I'm
Mhm.
incidental to showing up. In fact, this next week, I'm going to be in Denver running another strategic plan. And one of our community members, I sent a text out and said, who can run next week's office hours? Because I'm going to be traveling. And everyone knows Timmy Gallagher's going to run the call next week. And I love that, because it's not Jerry's office hours. It's a community office hours that people can come and gather and share community. And that to me is so much fun.
So
Community office hours. I love it, Jerry.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to say we went full circle, right? We ended in community and we started all about relationships, baby.
Let's go.
Now you know how important it is to be building those relationships. Thank you, Jerry. It was such an honor having you here for the second time.
Anything you want to add, Jerry? It can be like a nice word for the business. Just
Well, I can't thank you guys enough, right? So you've been incredibly kind to me and generous. But the reality of it is, figuring out how to publish online and to watch what your organization is doing to help people figure out what I like to call the spaghetti of content. You don't know where one platform begins and where it ends, and what your message is going to be, and who the audience is that you serve. And you guys have been incredibly helpful for me personally. And I like to say, I'm like the shoemaker. I can look at other people's businesses and I can figure it out, but I'm the guy walking around with bare feet. And so I think, if anyone's looking to try and clarify their message, to amplify their message, to do any of the things that you guys are in the space to do, I absolutely would recommend them to speak to you guys, because you guys are brilliant and have been absolutely brilliant for me. So I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Those words mean, I'm emotional, man. Like, it's been a journey, and I really appreciate you also being there for us. And I think we're both gonna go very, very far, and I can't wait for the people, you listening, coming hang out, with Jerry, come hang out with the Biz Bros.
Jerry office hours.
Record that for me, Fonzie. I'm gonna put it up.
I will. And I'm gonna go to Fiverr. I'm gonna be like, who can add some guitar on this thing? Dude, Jerry, I'm gonna do that. I'm actually gonna do that.
Awesome. All right, well, Jerry, thank you so much. With that said, thank you for coming to Content is Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show on your favorite platform and at BizBrosCo.
That is right. And if Jerry here helped you take one step closer to your goals, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review.
Awesome.
All right.
Jerry, we're still
Thanks,
live on
guys.
Facebook. Quick tradition. We got to take a selfie.
Yeah.
And then now Fonzie's in the same room with us, because last time he was like,
I know.
falling asleep on that interview. You good there?
Wait.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
All right. That's what's up.
Bye, social media. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.